The air inside the cage smells of metal and sweat and melted plastic. The walls are made of chain-link steel, bolted to a concrete frame, the kind used for maintenance storage near the ice rink. We've been stuck here for hours, maybe longer, and nobody has any idea if it's still night or already morning. The fluorescent lights above us keep flickering, sometimes dimming, sometimes buzzing back to full brightness like the power can't decide whether to give up or keep fighting. There are 6 of us in here. Me, Nadia, the bakery worker we just call Ed, a teenager named Chris who worked at the electronics store, and 2 kids who haven't spoken much since the chaos started. Their brother and sister, 8 and 10, I think. Their mother was separated from them during the rush at the main concourse. We haven't seen her since. Nadia keeps them close behind the crates we stacked to block the lower gaps in the mesh. I can still hear them whisper sometimes, asking if their mom will find them. Nobody answers. The noise outside comes and goes. It isn't constant anymore. But when it starts up again, it sounds like the world breaking apart. I can hear hands scraping against the metal, bodies bumping into the fence, and somewhere deeper in the hall, the muffled sound of shoes dragging across tile. The infected are still out there, hundreds of them maybe. When they find a new sound, they rush toward it in one wave. When the noise stops, they scatter again until something else catches their attention. The movement feels rhythmic, almost patterned, but that thought, that anything about this could be predictable, feels dangerous to trust. This all started hours earlier. It was supposed to be a simple Black Friday run. I'd spent 2 weeks planning what I was going to buy. A laptop for my son, headphones for my daughter, and maybe a slow cooker for my mother if the discount held. The mall was packed, but I knew what I wanted. I wasn't there for the chaos or the lines. I just wanted to get in and get out. I remember the first scream. It wasn't the usual yelling over deals or people cutting in line. It was sharper, raw, like something was actually wrong. Then a crash. Phones lifted as people started filming, laughing at the fight near the entrance. By the time anyone realized it wasn't a fight, the doors had already closed. Some kind of lockdown hit, shutters slammed down, the lights flickered, and the things that came running weren't security guards. They were customers, some of them already hurt, some already turning on the others. I saw a man bite a woman near the jewelry counter, then another knock over a shelf just to grab someone's arm. It didn't make sense. No one knew what was happening. Ed, who worked at the bakery on the lower floor, said the security staff tried to lock off sections of the mall. They closed gates, sealed corridors, and herded people into safe zones. But once the infection started spreading, there was no safe zone left. The alarms didn't stop. The crowd turned into a stampede. I don't even remember how I met Nadia or Chris. One minute I was trying to reach the south exit. The next, the hallway was blocked by bodies, and the air smelled like fire extinguishers and blood. Chris said he knew a back route through the maintenance corridor by the rink, and we followed him. That's how we ended up here, in a cage meant for janitors and supplies, hiding behind a locked mag door we couldn't open. The maglock has a small red LED on it that's been glowing since we got here. It never turned green. I tried breaking the control panel open, but the wiring is complex and the circuits are live. The display just reads, "Interior release disabled." I don't know if that means it's controlled from security or if it's just dead. Either way, we can't move forward, and we can't risk going back. The corridor behind us is full of broken carts, trash bins, and whatever infected haven't wandered away yet. We've tried to stay busy. I set up a rotation for bracing the gate whenever the infected push against it. Nadia keeps the kids calm. Ed uses what's left of his bakery apron to wipe sweat from the handle of the brace because it keeps slipping. Chris has been sitting with his legs stretched out, checking the wrap on his knee every few minutes. He tore it when we ran through the service tunnel, caught it on a broken rack. It doesn't look infected, just swollen. Still, I can tell it hurts him to stand. The air inside the cage feels heavy. The vent above us hums, but it's not pushing much. I found a floor drain and pried the cover off to let in whatever airflow I could. Every little thing helps. The sound outside faded about half an hour ago, but none of us trusted enough to talk above a whisper. Even when it's quiet, you can feel that tension, like everyone's waiting for the next noise to start. It happens sooner than we expect. A phone starts ringing. It's faint at first, somewhere beyond the corridor near the rink office. A normal ring, one of those old four-tone desk phones. The sound echoes through the hall. Everyone freezes. The kids pull closer to Nadia. Chris sits up straight, listening. Ed mutters under his breath that it has to be a glitch. I want to believe that, but then the infected start moving again. The scrape of feet and hands on tile fills the corridor. The ringing stops, but it's too late. The noise already drew them in. We wait in silence while the infected pound at the mesh. The gate holds, but the sound is unbearable. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stops again. There's another gap of maybe 20 seconds. Then another phone starts ringing, farther away this time. The infected move toward that one too, shuffling off into the distance. It keeps happening. One phone after another, ringing and stopping, each one pulling the infected from one direction to the next. None of us speak at first, but I can tell we're all thinking the same thing. It's not random. Someone is doing this. Ed says maybe security is trying to lure them away from survivors. Nadia shakes her head. She says if it were security, we'd hear announcements, or at least see flashing lights. Chris, who worked the floor during the early chaos, says the phones are on a system that routes unanswered calls from one extension to another. He says it could just be the system stuck in a loop. Nobody likes any of those answers. The argument starts small and turns heated fast. Nadia wants to wait it out and conserve strength. Ed says we're wasting time and that someone needs to check before the next ring pulls another crowd our way. Chris says we'll never make it far enough to find the phone without getting surrounded again. The kids start crying, and the sound makes the infected slam the mesh harder. I grab one of the empty bottles and start tapping it lightly against the wall to mask the noise, just enough to calm them. When the crowd outside moves off again, the hallway falls still. You can hear glass crack under their shoes as they leave. I know this silence. It's the same kind that came after the first blackout, before everything fell apart. The kind that makes you believe you're safe just long enough to get killed. I tell them I'm going to check it out. Nadia tries to stop me, says it's suicide. I tell her if we wait here until the next ring, it's going to drag another wave straight back toward us. Ed doesn't argue. He just hands me his flashlight and says, if I'm going to go, keep the beam pointed at the floor. I crouch and wait for the next shift in sound. You can hear when the infected pull away. Scraping fades, then the faint shuffle disappears. When I'm sure the corridor is clear, I slip through the narrow gap in the crates and slide the brace back behind me. The air outside feels colder. The floor is littered with trash and broken glass. My shoes crunch with every step, so I move slower, stepping only on the solid tiles that don't make noise. The red LED from the maglock glows faintly through the dust. I can see dark smears along the wall, finger marks, streaks from where people must have tried to brace the door earlier. Everything smells like cleaning chemicals and old blood. Another phone starts ringing somewhere ahead. The sound echoes through the hall, making it hard to tell which direction it's coming from. 4 rings. Then it cuts off again. I count silently. 10 seconds. Another phone starts farther away. 4 rings. Silence. Whoever, or whatever, is calling, is moving the sound from one extension to the next. I pass through the corridor and find a cracked glass door with an office directory still taped to the wall. The paper lists everything: security, leasing, administration, rink office, facilities, each one with a short number beside it. It's old and faded, but still legible. It tells me the calls are cycling through the internal system, one desk phone after another. That's when I hear another ring, louder this time, closer. It's coming from inside one of the offices ahead. I push the door open with my sleeve over my hand to muffle the sound. Inside, it smells stale. Coffee cups, broken screens, papers everywhere. I wait near the doorway and count the rings. 3, 4. I move fast, pick up the receiver before the 5th one starts. The receiver feels damp in my hand, slick with dust and sweat. I hold it tight enough that the plastic creaks. On the other end, A voice cuts through the static, clear and controlled. "This is Sergeant Adam Keller, National Guard. Who am I speaking with?" I tell him my name, half expecting the line to go dead like every other call I've tried since the outbreak began. It doesn't. The sound of papers shuffling and voices in the background comes through faintly. Someone is relaying coordinates, another giving short updates, clipped words that don't sound panicked, just tired. Then a second voice joins in, smoother and quicker. A dispatcher. "We're patching in the local command center. Hold one moment." I stare around the small office while the line clicks and switches. The place looks like a storm went through it. Coffee cups tipped over, sugar packets crushed underfoot, chairs thrown against the wall. A sticky note is still stuck to a monitor that's cracked through the middle. Someone wrote "meeting cancelled" on it. That small detail, so ordinary, so useless now, feels heavier than it should. The dispatcher comes back on. "All right, ma'am. I need you to confirm your location. You're inside the mall? Which section?" Her tone is firm but human, the kind you use when you want to sound calm for someone else's sake. "Maintenance cage by the rink utility corridor," I say. 6 of us total. 2 children. 1 teenager with a leg injury. No visible bites. We had 1 woman run off an hour ago. She didn't come back. There's a pause as she types, the sound of a keyboard faint but steady. "Copy that. You said maintenance corridor. Confirming east wing, ground level, near the ice rink access." "Yes, behind the staff doors. The maglock is red, and the control screen says interior release disabled." "Understood. Stay on the line. Transferring you to command for that sector." Another click, a low tone, then a new voice. Older, slower, deliberate. "This is Captain Mullins, National Guard. Task Command Charlie 2. I have your location. Who's leading your group?" I look at the phone like it can see me. "No one's leading," I say. "We're just trying to stay alive." He doesn't waste time. "Multiple active hotspots in your city. Our division has priority containment on yours. The exterior shutters are sealed. All side exits have been welded or chained by earlier responders to prevent spillover into adjacent blocks. We cannot breach those locks without risking a full spread into open zones. You understand what that means?" "Yes," I say, quieter now. "It means we cannot send personnel inside. We will not enter a sealed structure with active infections. Any survivors within are to remain in place until we can confirm a visual from the outside perimeter. Once verified, you'll be extracted under quarantine protocol. Our orders are strict. No interior contact. If you make it to a visible point, we'll act." It sounds like he's reading from a script. I wait for him to say something human, something that doesn't sound like a formality, but he doesn't. I tell him we've already tried everything. The interior doors are locked. The systems are automated and locked under incident control. We can't reach the exits, and the infected keep circling back whenever there's noise. He pauses, then says, "The roof is clear. That's your only interface to our line. My engineers managed to open one fire escape path earlier today. It's located at the main hall mezzanine, northeast corner. That staircase leads directly to the roof. The outer chains have been cut. If you can reach it and climb to the top, my spotters will see you." "And then what?" "Then we'll extract you, check for infection, and take you under quarantine." "Why can't you send anyone in now? There are kids here." He hesitates, but only for a breath. "We have orders not to enter live contamination zones. It's not a matter of choice. We can't risk armed personnel inside. Too many unknowns about the infection and how people react once exposed." His tone hardens slightly. "We can only engage once you're confirmed unarmed and visible. So that's it. No rescue inside the walls. No escort. We have to make our own way to the roof." I ask him how we're supposed to cross a building full of infected that move toward every sound. He says, "You heard the phones ringing?" "Yes." That's us. We're rolling calls through internal extensions to locate survivors and control noise direction. It's part of the containment sweep. We can guide you using that system. If you move carefully and pick up each call on the first ring, the infected won't have time to fix on the sound. We'll park calls on deadlines deeper in the building to lure them away from you. I look at the laminated sheet of extensions still pinned beside the door. The letters are faded, but I can read most of them. Security, leasing, rink office, admin desk. It's a map of phone numbers tied to rooms, and suddenly it makes sense. The ringing isn't random, it's a deliberate pattern. Someone figured out how to weaponize sound. He keeps speaking, explaining in short, clipped phrases. We'll name each extension. You move to that room. Pick up the phone before the second ring. Keep your voice low, under a whisper. Once confirmed, hang up. We'll roll to the next. It's a controlled route. Rink corridor to theater hall to main mezzanine. From there, fire escape door to roof. No stops, no detours. I ask him how long the building will stay powered. The lights above me flicker again, like the system heard the question. He says, backup generators are running for critical circuits only. We can't promise light everywhere. Use what you have. There's noise on his end. Someone shouting coordinates. Metal clanging. Wind cutting through a headset mic. He lowers his voice again. Listen carefully. The moment you move, you'll draw attention. If any infected breach your route, we can only redirect using sound. We can't engage. You're on your own inside. I don't argue. I've heard enough to know arguing won't change anything. I memorize the order of rooms in my head. He repeats them once more, slowly this time, like a teacher making sure the student is writing it down. Rink office, leasing corridor, admin desk, then main hall mezzanine. Fire escape door will be at the far corner, right of the escalators. Roof access is a single set of stairs. If the door's locked, use anything heavy to force it open. I can't tell if he's giving real advice or reading from a manual. I ask him if there's anyone else inside the building. Security, janitors, anyone. He says there are still signals from at least 2 phones near the food court level, but no confirmed responses. That means either deadlines or people too scared to answer. He ends with a final instruction. If we lose contact, stay moving. Keep answering on the first ring. If the phones stop completely, hold position in the nearest enclosed space. Do not shout. Do not use alarms. Keep your group tight. The call cuts for a moment, a crack of static so loud I flinch. Then it returns just long enough for him to say, "We'll monitor your position through the call logs. Once you're clear of the lower levels, you'll see the skylight. That's your sign you're close." Then the line dies. I hold the phone against my ear for a few seconds, hoping it'll come back, but all I hear is the hum of dead air. I set it down slowly and look around the office again. Papers are fluttering near the vent from the movement of the air. It's strange how alive the place looks even though everyone's gone. I grab the laminated sheet from the wall and fold it into my jacket pocket. When I step back into the hallway, the smell of dust and decay hits me again. The sound of distant movement echoes down the corridor. The infected are still reacting to the last series of calls. They move in waves, clumsy but fast when they get focused. I keep close to the wall and move back toward the cage. Every few steps, I stop and listen. Silence stretches long enough for me to make it back without being seen. When I reach the cage, Ed is the first to see me. He lowers the brace just enough to let me slip inside, then pushes it back into place. Everyone's waiting for an answer. The kids sit up and, wide-eyed. Nadia keeps a hand on their shoulders. Chris leans forward, jaw tight. "It was real," I say. "The phones aren't random. The National Guard is using the lines to find survivors. They've sealed the building from outside, but there's a way to the roof. They can see us from there." The silence that follows feels heavier than anything before it. The others stare at me, waiting for more details, waiting for something that sounds like certainty. I tell them everything, exactly as I heard it. The National Guard isn't coming inside. The building is sealed from the outside to stop the infection from spreading beyond the perimeter. The only way out is through the roof, and the only help we'll get is from their call system. I tell them the phones aren't random, that someone out there is rerouting the calls to guide us through the building like breadcrumbs. If we move quietly and pick up each phone before the second ring, we can stay ahead of the infected. It's a bad plan, but it's still the only one that exists. Everyone reacts differently. Ed looks like he wants to argue, but he's too exhausted to care. He's been holding that brace for hours, and his arms shake every time he lets go of it. Nadia nods slowly, like she's trying to convince herself she believes me. Chris, the kid with the wrapped knee, just stares at the floor, rubbing the back of his leg. He says he can walk if we go slow and steady. I tell him steady is the plan. The two children sit behind the crates, holding hands. They're not crying now, just watching us with wide, blank eyes that have already seen too much. I start to explain what has to happen next. When the next phone rings somewhere nearby, it means the guard is ready. That call will be used to draw the infected away from our section. Once the sound pulls them off the mesh, we'll move out. Nadia will handle the kids. Ed will take the brace to use as a makeshift weapon, and Chris will carry the flashlight. We'll stay together, single file. No noise, unless absolutely necessary. Every call we intercept will guide us closer to the mezzanine fire escape. Once we get there, we climb to the roof and make ourselves visible. Then, and only then, the guard will act. The infected start slamming against the cage again before I finish. The mesh rattles, and a dull metallic clang echoes through the corridor. One of them hits the side hard enough that a few zip ties snap. I push against the gate with Ed until the sound fades again. We don't speak while we do it. There's no point in swearing or panicking. This is just the rhythm now. Quiet, noise, push back, wait, repeat. When the banging stops, I check the corridor again through a gap in the mesh. The light outside is dimmer now. Either the building is losing power or one of the light rows went out. My stomach twists at the thought of moving through complete darkness, but there's no avoiding it. The next phone rings. The sound is faint, somewhere in the distance. Maybe 2 corridors away. It's the signal we were waiting for. I count the rings in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it stops. The infected react right away, peeling away from the mesh and drifting down the corridor toward the source of the noise. We watch the last shadow move out of sight. I nod once at Ed. He grips the brace, waiting for my signal. I cut one of the zip ties near the bottom of the gate and pull it open just wide enough for the kids to crawl through. Nadia goes first, holding their hands. Then Chris, moving slow, careful not to twist his bad leg. Ed follows, dragging the metal bar behind him like a crutch. I slip out last and pull the gate closed behind us, rethreading the zip tie through the latch as quietly as possible. The sound of the plastic sliding through metal feels too loud, but nothing stirs. The corridor outside smells worse than before. The air is thick with a chemical staleness, cleaner, blood, and burned wiring. The walls are smeared with handprints and streaks of dried red-brown stains. I keep the headlamp on its lowest setting, just enough to see where we're going. The light throws long shadows across the floor, and every time one of them moves, my pulse jumps. The next phone rings, closer this time. The noise bounces through the hall and into the open air of the main walkway beyond. It's impossible to tell distance by sound anymore, but I know it's in the direction we need to go. I whisper for the group to stay tight and move. We follow the path through the rink corridor, passing the old vending alcove and a half-open maintenance closet. There are footprints in the dust. Old, maybe from before the lockdown. I can't tell. The closer we get to the sound, the more it echoes. It's not just one phone now. It's 2 overlapping, out of sync. I realize they must be cycling the calls through different extensions faster than before, maybe to draw off multiple groups of infected at once. When we reach the first intersection, I can see the faint glow of a desk phone ahead, its small red light blinking. It's sitting on a counter beside a cracked display case. I motion for everyone to stop. The ringing cuts out after the 4th tone, and for a moment, the silence feels dangerous again. I reach forward and lift the receiver. The voice comes through right away, calm and familiar. Extension 12 confirmed. You're en route. Move straight down the hall toward the leasing corridor. Next call in 10 seconds. The line goes dead before I can respond. 10 seconds later, a new ring starts echoing from farther ahead. We move again. Each step feels slower than it should. The floor is covered in broken glass and plastic fragments that crunch underfoot no matter how carefully we walk. The lights overhead buzz, and every flicker makes us freeze. Twice we hear movement behind us, quick and erratic, but it fades as soon as the next call starts. The phones are working. The sound keeps the infected chasing ghosts down the opposite wing. Chris stumbles once, catching himself against a wall. His breathing is uneven, but he doesn't complain. Ed mutters something about how the army better be watching if they're going to make us play bait. Nadia ignores him, focusing on the kids, keeping one hand on each of their shoulders. The little boy keeps glancing back down the hall, like he's trying to see what's behind us, even though I told him not to look. We reach the leasing corridor just as the phone rings again. This one's louder, echoing off the metal walls. The desk at the end of the hall still has a small "For Rent" sign taped to the counter, covered in dust. I pick up the phone before the second ring finishes. The same voice returns. Leasing corridor confirmed. Next call. Administration desk, north wing. When I hang up, the air goes quiet again. The sound of something scraping against tile starts up in the distance. I motion for everyone to move faster. We pass a row of abandoned storage rooms and a maintenance hatch that's been sealed with a bent steel bar. Someone tried to barricade it before all this. I wonder how long they lasted. The path turns through a narrow passage that smells like mildew. Somewhere above, there's the faint hum of air still moving through the vents. It's the only reason we can still breathe in here. The emergency lights flicker and cast faint blue shadows across the walls. We keep walking, staying close, quiet enough that the sound of our shoes feels too loud. The next phone rings before we even reach the admin section. The infected react instantly. You can hear the distant shuffle of feet and low moaning echoing through the hallways. The sound bounces around so much that it's impossible to tell where they're coming from. The ring cuts off. The infected keep moving. Then another phone rings farther away, pulling them off again. The coordination is deliberate, precise. Whoever's on the other end knows what they're doing. We reach the admin desk and find two bodies lying near the far wall, dressed in security uniforms. One of them still has a radio clipped to his belt, but the battery indicator is blinking red. I grab it anyway. Nadia stops beside me and asks if we should say something. Maybe close their eyes. I tell her we don't have time. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the truth is simple. Any noise could get us killed. She nods once and moves on. The phone at the admin counter lights up again. I pick it up before the first ring ends. Admin confirmed, the voice says. You're close. Next is the mezzanine. 2 corridors left. You'll pass the theater hall on your right. Keep left. I hang up and gesture for everyone to keep moving. The sound of the infected grows faint, just background noise now. For the first time since we left the cage, the silence doesn't feel deadly. It feels like progress. When we reach the theater hall, the smell hits first. Something rotten, heavy, trapped too long in the air. The entrance doors are half open, and inside, I can see overturned chairs and what's left of the snack counter. The popcorn machine is shattered, kernels scattered everywhere, mixed with dark stains. Bodies fill the aisles. Customers, maybe, from when the outbreak first hit. The projector screen is still lit by a flickering standby light. It's a graveyard of noise and panic frozen mid-moment. We don't stop. There's no point. You can't help the dead, and you can't help those who were left behind days ago. I keep my eyes on the far end of the hall, where a faint light shines through a half-closed security shutter. That's where the next call is coming from. The phone on the counter rings. I pick it up on the third ring. Main mezzanine route confirmed, the voice says. We'll divert the infected west. Move now. I hang up and turn back to the group. We're close. Stay behind me, and don't run, no matter what you hear. They all nod. Nobody argues anymore. The fear that once kept us frozen now works like discipline. We pass through the final hallway before the main hall. The lights ahead are dimmer, flickering every few seconds, but the air feels different, cooler, open. It means the main hall is near. The building hums faintly, a sound that feels like a heartbeat running through steel. Every step brings us closer to the exit we've been chasing since the doors first locked. When the next phone rings, it's not far away. It's the signal that we've reached the mezzanine level. The sound echoes across the open space ahead. The infected below start to shift, drawn to the noise on the lower floor. I can see their silhouettes through the gaps between railings, dozens of them wandering under the flickering lights. We hold position just behind the corner. I count the rings. The phone cuts out again after the fourth tone. The infected below shuffle toward the sound, giving us a narrow window of movement. I look at Nadia, then at Ed. No words left to say. We all know what happens next. The moment we step around the corner, the sight hits me harder than I expect. The main hall looks almost untouched at first glance, like the morning crowd just left minutes ago. Sale banners still hang from the ceiling, half torn but bright under the dim light. Cardboard signs shout, "Doorbusters," and "half off." Faces of smiling models frozen mid-laugh. Escalators sit dead in the middle, stairs packed with scattered boxes, broken display screens, and spilled merchandise. The floor glitters with glass, and the reflection of emergency lights still pulsing from somewhere above. For a second, it feels like walking into a paused world. A world that hasn't realized it ended. The phone buzzes once in my pocket, and when I pull it out, the voice of the commander cuts through immediately. His tone is clipped and tired. "You're in the main hall mezzanine. My spotter sees you. Don't move yet. Infected density still high on the east side. 3 clusters moving near your position. We can't clear them directly, but we can create a diversion." His words are calm, steady, but behind that calm, I can hear other voices. Someone giving range calls. Someone shouting coordinates. It sounds like they're managing chaos everywhere at once. We press tight against a pillar. The kids crouch low, eyes darting between the railings. Nadia keeps them steady with her arms around both. Ed leans against a bench, still gripping the metal brace. Chris props himself against the dolly, his bad leg shaking but holding. I can hear the shuffle of feet below us. The infected wander through the aisles in slow patterns, drawn towards sounds we can't hear. Some are quiet, others muttering, coughing, dragging themselves through what used to be the electronics section. The commander speaks again, lower this time. "I'm spinning the ring cascade north. Phones will fire in sequence. Stores 31 through 33. It'll pull them toward that side. Wait for the third ring, then move. You'll have maybe 10 seconds, maybe less." I nod, even though he can't see me, and whisper the plan to the others. We wait in silence, pressed into shadow, breathing through open mouths to stay quiet. The air smells like burnt plastic and something faintly sweet, spilled soda maybe. Somewhere close, a phone starts to ring. 1 ring, then 2. The infected below shift direction, slow at first, then faster as the second ring joins. A third phone lights up on the opposite balcony, creating a wave of movement. The moaning fades under the sound of scraping feet. It's working. "Go," the commander says. I don't wait. We move fast, staying low. Our footsteps echo on the tile, louder than I want. Nadia keeps the kids in the center, Ed behind them, Chris to my left. We cross the open walkway, dodging fallen mannequins and shattered shelves. The noise of our shoes against broken glass makes me wince, but there's no other way across. Halfway through, movement catches my eye. A man waving both arms from behind a kiosk. He's wearing a torn security coat, blood dried on the collar. He's alive. His voice cracks as he shouts, "Help me, please, I'm not infected, please." His words echo across the empty hall, bouncing off the walls. I freeze for half a second, every instinct screaming to go to him. Nadia turns her head toward me, eyes wide, ready to run to him. I shake mine, hard. "No," I whisper. She doesn't move, but the guilt in her face hits me anyway. The man keeps waving until the next ring starts far away. Then the infected at the far end pivot toward his voice. He doesn't get a second chance. We can't stop. We keep moving, but the noise he made changes the flow. Infected that were heading north now shift back toward the mezzanine. The commander's voice breaks through the static in my ear. You've got eyes on you. Left side balcony. Move now. Don't stop. We push harder, breaking into a half run. The kids stumble once, but Nadia keeps them upright. Ed grips the brace in one hand and the dolly handle in the other, using both to clear a path through the clutter. Chris hobbles, grimacing but refusing to slow. The mezzanine exit is just ahead, a metal fire door with a cut chain hanging from the handle, exactly like the commander described. Then everything goes wrong at once. A woman bursts out from one of the side aisles near the cosmetics store, sprinting full speed. She doesn't see us until it's too late. She crashes straight into Chris, spinning both of them to the ground. The dolly flips, clattering against the floor. The sound rings through the air, sharp and metallic. Every head in the shadows turns toward us. For a moment, everything freezes. Me, Nadia, Ed, even the kids. The woman scrambles to her knees, her hair matted with sweat and dust. "Please," she gasps, "don't leave me." She grabs at Chris's sleeve. He's trying to get up, clutching his leg, groaning through clenched teeth. Then the noise starts again, the guttural calls of infected catching scent, catching sound. They start running. The first ones appear at the far end of the hall, their movements jerky but fast, like their bodies are working on instinct alone. Ed shouts at us to move, pulling the kids forward. Nadia yells something I can't make out. I see the choice in front of me, and it feels wrong no matter what I pick. The woman is still on the ground, reaching out. Chris is half up but limping badly. The horde is less than 50 feet away. I grab Chris under the arm and haul him up. He stumbles, and I shove the dolly back into his hands. "Move!" I hiss. He limps forward, leaning his full weight on it. I turn to grab the woman, but she's already surrounded. 3 of them hit her at once, the impact echoing through the hall. She screams, high and short, and then it stops. I look away before the sound finishes. We run. The infected close in behind, their footsteps slapping hard against the tile. I can feel the vibration through my shoes. The mezzanine stairs come into view, concrete steps leading up toward the exit door. Nadia pushes the kids ahead of her. Ed drops the brace once to grab the smaller child and lift him up the steps. I take the rear, shoving what debris I can into the path behind us. It won't stop them long, but it might slow them. The door at the top looks exactly as the commander said. Chained once, now cut through, push bar propped open with a yellow caution cone to keep it from relatching. I hit it first, forcing it wide enough for everyone to slip through. The cold air from the stairwell hits like a shock. It smells cleaner, sharper, but still carries the faint metallic tang of old blood. Ed slams the door behind us and wedges the brace across the handle. The sound of pounding starts almost immediately on the other side. The metal shudders but holds. Chris collapses against the wall, breathing hard through his teeth. Nadia checks the kids, her hands trembling now that we've stopped moving. The older one whispers, "Where's the lady who fell?" And Nadia just shakes her head, unable to answer. I reach for the radio on my belt and key the button. Static fills the stairwell for a few seconds before the commander's voice cuts in. "We saw movement. You made it to the mezzanine. Good. Door to roof is clear. Keep moving before the next cluster doubles back." "We lost someone," I say quietly. There's a pause. Then he says, "Copy." Just that, nothing else. We start climbing. The stairwell is narrow, concrete walls marked with scuff lines and smeared handprints. Each flight feels steeper than the last. Chris leans on the dolly, pushing it like a walker. Ed takes the rear this time, keeping an ear on the door below. The pounding fades after a minute, replaced by the distant hum of wind through the building's ventilation shafts. The climb feels endless. The stairwell walls close in around us, the sound of our breathing trapped between concrete and metal. The steps groan with each footfall, each one a reminder that the structure isn't meant to hold this much weight in motion. The air grows colder the higher we go, sharper, cleaner than what's below, but it still carries the faint burn of dust and old insulation. My legs ache, but stopping isn't an option. Every time someone slows, The rhythm of the group falters, and we lose seconds we can't afford to lose. The commander's voice comes through the radio again, the connection rough but steady enough to understand. You're approaching the fire escape. Before you exit, I need all weapons and tools dropped. Everything metal, everything sharp. Orders from containment command, no exceptions. He pauses, then adds, "This is for your safety and ours. Do not carry anything through that door." Nobody argues out loud, but the tension shifts instantly. Ed stops mid-step, staring at the brace in his hand. It's just a piece of steel, but it's also been the only thing between us and death more than once. Nadia looks at me like she's waiting for me to contradict the voice on the radio. I can't. Do what he says, I tell them. We can't give them a reason to think we're armed. Ed sets the brace down on the landing and leans it gently against the wall, as if putting down a part of himself. The sound of it touching concrete echoes up the stairwell. Nadia pulls the small canister of pepper spray from her pocket and sets it next to the others. Chris unwraps his fingers from the dolly handle, hesitating longer than anyone. He looks at me once, like he's asking for permission to keep it. "Leave it," I say. He nods and sets it down. The sound of the metal frame scraping the steps is too loud in the silence. We start moving again. The echo of our shoes fills the stairwell, mixing with the soft rattle of loose screws underfoot. Then the sound shifts. A hollow bang reverberates from below. I stop mid-step and glance back over my shoulder. The door 2 flights down bursts open, slamming against the wall. A wave of infected pours into the stairwell, their steps rapid and uneven. The commander's voice hits the radio again. "You've got movement below. You need to move now. I cannot help from here. Just move." One infected reaches the dolly left behind and grabs the handle, pulling it with jerky movements, metal screeching on concrete. Chris looks back in panic, but the Ed yanks the handle free before it becomes a ladder for the rest. "Go!" he whispers harshly, shoving it sideways. The dolly falls down the stairwell, crashing into the bodies below. The noise triggers chaos, the kind that gives us just enough time to climb. We don't stop. Every flight we clear feels like another inch of survival, but the noise below keeps growing. The sound of hands slapping metal, of guttural cries echoing upward, mixes with the steady scrape of shoes against concrete. The stairwell becomes a funnel of noise and fear. When the roof door finally comes into view, it looks unreal, pale light spilling through a small gap where the frame doesn't seal right. I shove forward, shoulder against the bar. It sticks for a second, then gives with a harsh metallic click. Cold air slams into my face, fresh and open, mixed with diesel fumes and the hum of floodlights. The space beyond is blinding compared to the stairwell. The rooftop has been turned into a controlled corridor, tall concrete barriers creating narrow lanes, each one marked with strips of reflective tape. Floodlights mounted on tripods make everything look flat and overexposed. At the far end, I see figures in helmets and masks, silhouettes against the glare. A voice booms over a bullhorn. "Stop where you are. Drop all bags and possessions immediately. Keep your hands visible." The echo rolls over the roof, bouncing off the walls and carrying down the stairwell behind us. "Do not run. Do not approach until instructed." I turn to the others, speaking quietly but firmly. "Do what they say. No talking. Keep your hands on your head and walk slow. Don't grab anyone. Don't look at the guns." I know what happens to people who make sudden movements in a panic. I've seen enough to understand how quickly fear turns into gunfire. We do exactly as told. Nadia helps the kids lift their hands above their heads. Chris follows, limping forward but keeping steady. Ed moves behind them. We step into the open one by one, eyes half blinded by the floodlights. "Walk forward," the voice says. "Interlock fingers on top of your head. Move toward the light." We start walking, the concrete rough under our shoes. The sound of the infected below fades under the heavy noise of generators. The air hums with power lines and machinery. As we move, shadows of soldiers step closer from the edges of the floodlights. They're dressed in full protective suits, thick fabric, gas masks, tinted visors. The rifles in their hands are steady, aimed low but ready. No one speaks. When we reach the marked line painted across the floor, they tell us to stop again. One by one they approach, zip ties in hand. The first soldier grabs my wrists and pulls them tight enough that I feel the plastic bite into my skin. The sound of the strap cinching is small but final. "Do not resist," he says through the mask. I don't. The kids cry now, not loud, just the soft, exhausted kind that comes when there's nothing left to fight. Nadia bends slightly, whispering to them, telling them it's okay, even though it's not. Chris gets restrained next, his arms trembling from the effort of keeping his balance. Ed flinches when they tie his wrists, but he doesn't say anything. Black hoods drop over our heads. Everything disappears into darkness. The sound of footsteps and muffled instructions fills the air. We're led forward in silence, guided by gloved hands on our shoulders. The concrete beneath my feet changes texture. Smoother now, almost polished. Someone says, "Secured, moving to containment." Through the hood, I can hear the distant thump of rotor blades and the sharp tone of another voice over the bullhorn repeating a message. "If you are not bitten, move to the main hall mezzanine fire escape. Keep hands visible. Do not carry a weapon. Follow the arrows to the roof." The sound carries down into the building. It's followed by the faint roar of renewed chaos as the remaining survivors below start to move toward that same promise of escape. The noise is like a storm trapped beneath us. Hundreds of footsteps, distant screams, and the crashing of metal against tile. It rises for a minute, then fades into a dull background hum. Someone near me whispers that the phones are ringing again, pulling the infected away from the route. Another voice says, "Let them come. We'll sort them." Hands push me into a crouch. The zip ties dig deeper. I hear the sharp crack of a camera flash, the sound of pens scratching paper, someone reading names that none of us gave. The air feels colder against my wrists where the plastic cut. Then, one by one, we're moved again, guided toward what feels like the back of a truck or a containment pod. Metal under my feet, a door clanging shut behind us, the heavy thump of locks engaging. The engine starts. The vibration hums through the floor. I can't see anything through the hood, but I can feel the movement as we drive away from the roof. The commander's voice returns for the last time, through the radio clipped to my vest. "You made it out. You're safe now. Follow instructions. You'll be processed for observation." His tone doesn't sound like relief. It sounds like procedure. The truck keeps moving. The air inside smells of rubber and disinfectant. The noise of the infected fades behind us, replaced by the steady rhythm of tires on cracked pavement. Someone in front of me asks how long this part will take. No one answers. The truck ride ends without warning. The brakes squeal, the engine idles for a few seconds, and then the back doors open to cold air and the smell of asphalt. Someone orders us out one by one. I can't see through the hood, but gloved hands guide me forward until my shoes scrape against concrete. The hood comes off under bright white lights that sting my eyes. We're standing in a narrow loading bay lined with barricades and floodlights. Beyond them, a chain-link fence hides the view of the street. Everything smells of disinfectant and fuel. Soldiers and medics move like clockwork. No shouting, no chaos, just constant motion. A medic steps forward, clipboard in hand. She doesn't ask for names. She reads numbers off our wristbands instead. Mine starts with a 7. She calls it out, and another medic steps up to take me. We walk across the bay into a hallway that looks too clean for the world outside. Plastic curtains hang from the ceiling, separating narrow walkways. The floors gleam under fluorescent lights. Every few feet, someone sprays down a surface and marks a box on a clipboard. I'm led into a small white room with a bed, a plastic chair, and a sealed window. The door closes behind me, and a lock clicks automatically. There's a bag with my name tag on it sitting on the counter, but it's out of reach behind a sheet of plexiglass. A nurse enters a minute later wearing a mask and gloves. She doesn't make small talk. Vitals, temperature, pulse, a series of swabs. She draws blood and notes the color carefully. Everything goes into labeled containers that disappear through a sealed slot in the wall. They start asking questions while I'm still sitting there in the paper gown. The questions come from a speaker on the wall. A man's voice, clear and patient. He asks what I saw, what triggered the panic inside the mall, how the infected moved, how many survived. I answer what I can. I tell him about the phones, how the system hunted extensions in loops, how the infected were drawn to the sound like it was magnetic. I explain that the maglocks were failed secure, that the building automation was under full incident control from outside, and that every access point required a central override. I tell him that when the phones rang, if you caught them early, you could steer the infected away. It was a pattern you could learn, predictable in its own strange rhythm. The man doesn't argue, he just says, "Acknowledged," and moves to the next question. He asks if anyone in our group showed symptoms. I tell him no, that we lost a few on the way, but not to infection, to panic, to the crowd, to bad timing. He doesn't ask their names. After the tests, the room goes silent. Meals come through a tray slot twice, both labeled observation ration. The lights stay on day and night. Time blurs. My paper bracelet itches at my wrist, but it's the only thing that confirms I still exist in their system. At some point, the door opens again. A woman in a grey suit walks in holding a folder. Her hair is perfectly combed, her expression fixed somewhere between concern and procedure. "You're being cleared for release," she says. "There's no sign of infection. Before you leave, you'll need to sign a few documents." She lays the folder on the table. The first page is a standard release. The second is something else, a formal non-disclosure under emergency public order. It's written in plain language, but the weight behind it is clear. I'm not allowed to talk about what happened inside the mall. I'm not allowed to discuss the National Guard operation, the phone system, or any internal evacuation methods. No public statements, no interviews, no online posts. Violations will be treated as interference with emergency containment. The woman doesn't try to soften it. She just slides the pen toward me and waits. I sign. I don't even read the rest. I just want out. When I hand it back, she looks at me for a moment as if trying to decide whether to say something human. She doesn't. She just gathers the papers, thanks me for my cooperation, and leaves. An officer in plain clothes appears next, carrying a small plastic bag. My phone, my wallet, my car keys, everything wiped down and labeled. He explains that a driver will take me home. He doesn't say from where, or who he reports to. His tone is professional, not unkind, just mechanical. I follow him down the corridor, past rooms with closed doors. I think I hear Nadia's voice in one of them, faint but real. There's no time to stop. Outside, the daylight looks washed out after so much artificial light. The city beyond the perimeter fence feels distant, blurred by haze and security tape. The parking lot is half full of military trucks and unmarked sedans. A drone hovers above the hospital roof, camera blinking red. The officer opens the back door of a police car and gestures for me to get in. "You'll be dropped at your residence," he says. "Someone will contact you if follow-up is required. Keep quiet about the operation, for everyone's safety." The ride is silent. The driver doesn't speak, and I don't ask questions. The world outside the window looks almost normal. Shops open, buses running, people carrying groceries. But there's something off about the way they move. Slower, more careful, as if waiting for a sound they can't name. Police barricades mark certain intersections, but traffic flows around them. Every few blocks, a National Guard truck sits parked at the curb with its lights off. We turn down my street. The houses look untouched. My car is still parked out front, dusty but whole. For a brief moment, I almost believe I dreamed the whole thing. The driver stops in front of my house, shifts into park, and looks straight ahead. "You're home," he says flatly. Then, softer, "Don't talk about it, not to anyone." He waits until I'm halfway up the walkway before pulling away. The sound of the tires fades fast, leaving only the faint buzz of cicadas in the trees. I stand there for a few seconds staring at my own front door. The lights are on inside. Through the curtain I can see movement. I knock once before my hand remembers the key in my pocket. The door opens before I can unlock it. My mother stands there, her face pale and tired. For a heartbeat, neither of us says anything. Then she steps forward and grabs me, holding tight enough that I feel her shaking. "They told us nothing," she says, voice low and trembling. "The police came, asked about you, said there'd been an incident at the mall, but they wouldn't say when you'd be home." Over her shoulder, I see my children. My son stands in the hallway, eyes wide, clutching a blanket around his shoulders. My daughter runs forward first, burying herself against my legs. The weight of her feels real, grounding in a way nothing else has since the first scream in that store. I kneel and pull them both in, holding them tight, breathing them in like proof that I made it out. My mother watches us with tears caught at the corners of her eyes. "They said you were safe," she says quietly. "That's all they said." I nod, unable to find words. She asks if it's true, if I'm really all right. I tell her yes, but my voice sounds strange, not fully attached to me. She looks past me toward the street. "There were sirens all night, then nothing this morning. Do you know what's happening?" I shake my head. "They won't tell me anything. It's under control, that's what they said. But it's not." She closes the door, locks it, and leads me into the kitchen. Everything looks the same. Dishes stacked by the sink, a half-finished puzzle on the table. For a moment, I just stand there, taking in the ordinary details, like they're artifacts from another life. My son asks if I'm going back to work. I tell him no. My mother gives me that look again, the one she used to give when she knew I was hiding something, but didn't want to push. She finally asks the question that's been sitting between us since I walked in. What really happened in there? I stare at the floor. The NDA flashes in my mind. The words, the signature, the warning. I could tell her everything, but the truth would just make her afraid. I take a long breath and say, "It was worse than what they're saying. They won't be able to keep it quiet." Her face tightens. "You mean there are still people trapped?" "People," I answer, "and things that used to be." I don't say more. I don't have to. I go upstairs to my room and start packing a small bag. The action feels mechanical, like my body remembers what to do while my mind drifts somewhere else. I fold clothes, roll up socks, check the flashlight, batteries, and first aid kit I always kept by the door. It feels strange to touch these things again, like visiting a past version of myself who already knew this day might come. My mother follows me after a minute, leaning against the doorway. Her voice is low, tired. "You just got back," she says. "Where are you going now?" I don't stop folding. "I don't know yet," I say. "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere that won't be on anyone's map for a while." I zip the bag halfway shut and keep talking. They sealed one mall, but that means there were others. If this started in more than one place, it's already too big to hide. They'll try to control it, but it'll spread. It always does. She doesn't argue. She just watches me, eyes soft but worried. "I'll keep the kids here," she says finally. "You can come back when things calm down." I look up and shake my head. "No, I need you to pack too. Not to run, just to be ready. Keep everything looking normal. School, work, lights on at night, but have bags ready for all three of you. Clothes, food, flashlights, water. Keep the car fueled. Don't tell anyone, not even the neighbors." Her mouth opens to ask why, but I keep talking before she can. "The police who came here didn't say anything because they were told not to. They came to check if you were still home. If they start knocking again, that's when you leave. Don't wait for sirens or orders. Just go. Take the back roads. Head north if you can. Stay away from city centers and hospitals." She crosses the room and sits on the edge of the bed, quiet for a long time. The sound of the news downstairs filters up, an anchor's voice reading from a script about containment, about public safety, about returning to normal. The same lines I heard before. She finally looks at me and says, "You sound like your father did the night he packed for the evacuation drills. He said it was just in case, and we laughed about it later." "Then let's laugh later," I tell her. "For now, we prepare." She nods once, slow and resigned, then stands and walks out without another word. I hear her moving through the house, opening closets, drawers, cabinet doors. The faint sound of her rummaging through supplies blends with the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the dull buzz of the television. I hear my daughter ask where Grandma's going. My mother tells her she's just getting ready for a trip, nothing serious. My son asks if I'm leaving again, and she says, "No, not tonight." I check the window. Outside, a patrol car glides by without lights, just the faint reflection of its roof beacon catching in the street lamp glow. Farther off, I can see the distant pulse of red over the skyline, too steady to be lightning, too faint to be fireworks. A low vibration carries through the floorboards. Helicopters, still circling somewhere near the quarantine perimeter. The city looks alive, but it's all surface. Even from here, I can tell people are staying inside. There's a stillness that doesn't belong to normal nights. When my mother returns, she's holding 2 duffel bags and an old thermos. "I put some things together," she says. "Blankets, canned food, a map from before they started changing the roads. It's not much, but it's something." "It's enough," I tell her. "Just keep it near the door." We go downstairs together. The kids are sitting on the couch, watching the muted newsfeed. My daughter is holding a small backpack, her school one. She must have seen me packing. "Are we leaving?" she asks. "Not tonight," I say, sitting beside her. "We just have to be ready, in case the lights go out again." She seems satisfied with that answer. Across the room, my mother tightens the straps on one of the duffels and sets it by the door, pretending not to listen to the TV when the announcer mentions civil unrest at containment zones. After the kids fall asleep, I go out to the porch for a minute. The night air is cold, sharper than it should be. The city hum has changed. No music, no traffic, just the faint buzz of electrical lines and the occasional bark of a dog. I spot another drone in the sky, its red light blinking in a slow rhythm. It hovers for a few seconds, then tilts and drifts away toward the east. The phone in my pocket vibrates once. No number, just a message. Public safety advisory, maintain calm and follow instructions. I delete it without opening the full text. When I glance across the street, I notice lights flickering inside a house that was dark before. A silhouette moves behind the curtains, slow, uncertain, not like a neighbor coming home late. I watch for a moment longer, then close the door and lock it. Back inside, the living room looks almost peaceful. My mother is sitting at the table with a cup of tea, staring at the map she packed. She looks up when I enter. "You think it's starting again?" I sit across from her. I think it never stopped. They're just choosing which stories to tell. She folds the map carefully and tucks it into one of the bags. "I'll tell the kids we're taking a short trip this weekend, maybe to the cabin. It'll give us an excuse to load the car without questions." "That's good," I say. "Make it look normal. Pack like it's just a vacation." I pause, thinking of the phone calls in the mall, the sound of ringing in the dark. "Keep the radio on but low. If you hear the emergency tone, don't wait for details. Just go." She nods again, more firmly this time. "And you?" "I'll stay close for now," I say. "I'll check the car tomorrow, make sure the spare tank still fits. If the roads stay clear, we'll leave at dawn if anything happens." We sit there for a while, the two of us, listening to the faint static coming from the television's muted screen. It flickers every few seconds, catching the reflection of the hallway light. Everything feels too still. Before going to bed, I double-check the locks, the window latches, the flashlight batteries. I step into each child's room for a moment, just to watch them sleep. My son mumbles something about school. My daughter curls closer to her pillow, her fingers still wrapped around a stuffed toy. I whisper that everything's fine, even though I don't believe it. And that's where we'll stop for now. Thanks for listening till the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me how the story hit you, what moments worked, what didn't, and what you'd want to hear next. And a big thank you to everyone supporting the channel, especially with extra membership: Carlos Herrera, Luca Mod, The Great Anywho, Jaydala, Madam Midnight, Deborah Powell. You keep this project alive. Until next time, Survivor. Jack's Nightmares signing off.